Good afternoon. I am Cuthbert C. Joseph, Tutor Treasurer, and it is a pleasure to welcome you all to today's session of Money Talk Sundays. Welcome back to those of you who have participated in previous sessions, to all of my colleagues in Tutor or trustees or various district officials. I don't think we have any other national officers present at this time. But every tutor member in the room, welcome. And to our guests this afternoon, we have guests from Guardian Asset Management joining us this afternoon. I will introduce them later on as we move to the segment where they will present. But to everybody here, thank you very much for making this your priority. Welcome to Money Talk Sundays. And some of you may be wondering, what exactly is Money Talk Sundays? If this is your first session, or why have we organized Money Talk Sundays? It is a session designed to share with our members and to allow our members to share information about personal financial management and even about tutors' finances. And we're going over some very important principles which are valid at the personal level and at the corporate level. And so we hope that at the end of today's session, and at the end of each of our sessions, everybody would feel that you engaged in something of value, that we've all learned or at least refreshed our knowledge. It's about creating awareness, sowing seeds, so that as we continue on our respective lives journey, we would have the benefits coming out of these discussions and hopefully be able to use what we know in making better financial decisions. Just a few reminders as we get started. Of course, we are in our respective spaces, so there's no house announcement and there's no need for me to direct you to the emergency exits. But there are a few things that we should remember. It is intended to be an interactive session, so you are welcome to click the raise hand button and ask questions when called upon. You are free, of course, to share from your own experience, your knowledge and insight as we go through the discussions. Each presenter may choose to entertain the questions and comments either during the presentation or at the end of the presentation. So we'll look out for those guidelines, those guidance, bits of guidance as we go through, and we encourage you to participate in a way that meets the basics of, on etiquette for online meetings. So let's respect everybody's contribution. As I said, click the raise hand button and wait to be called upon. Please mute your mics when you are not contributing to the discussion. And if you choose to activate your camera, remember to be mindful of your background and other persons in your space. We would not want you to share anything inadvertently. Money Talk Sundays is about money, personal financial management, and related such things. But remember that this is not about personal financial advice. We are going to be sharing information that you might find useful and which might be a good first step toward getting financial advice, seeking information that will help you to make those very important financial decisions. All right. We're going to share all that we can and hope that it is useful to you. We recognize, of course, that we have in our audience persons who are at different stages of their lives, of their careers, of their financial journey. And so some things may be specifically very relevant to you. Other things may be, behind you in terms of your stage in your journey or somewhat ahead. But I invite you to listen and to share, and I'm sure that we will all benefit from the exchange, okay? And as I said, this is about sowing seeds, about creating awareness, creating consciousness, building our capacity as individuals and as persons functioning in the organization to engage in discussion and decision-making as it relates to personal finance and tutor finances as well. So again, thank you very much for joining today's session. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am seeing some names of persons who were here in our previous sessions. We had a few sessions in term 1, and we are seeking to deal with a few topics of interest to our members at this time. All right, we had planned to do 3 sessions this month, but most of you would know that the Tobago Teachers Get Together is going on at this time, and so we rescheduled last week's session in order to give way to the ecumenical service that marked the start of the Tobago Teachers Get Together. Welcome to our participants from Tobago, and we look forward to joining you in the other sessions of the Tobago Teachers Get Together. Of course, next week, Sunday, is Labor Day, and those of us in Trinidad will all be going down to Faizabad. Persons in Tobago will be participating in Labor Day activities in Tobago. But the following weekend, Sunday, the 26th of June, we aim to meet again for another Money Talk Sunday session. And on that date, we hope to be talking about retirement planning and annuities. That's not necessarily for persons who are near retirement. It's definitely something you want to be thinking about early on in your career as well. The earlier you start planning for retirement and investing for retirement, the better for you. All right. So I will pause. First, let me signal that I will do a short presentation on budgeting and money management, reviewing some of the points which we would have covered in previous sessions. It may be new to some persons. And when we finish with that presentation, we'll have our guests from Guardian Asset Management do their presentation. As I said, it's all meant to be interactive. So feel free to click the raise hand button, and I would be glad to entertain your questions and contributions. Are there any questions at this stage? Are there any questions at this stage? Not. I am prepared to go directly in. Yes? Hmm. Let me see if we can find, was there somebody? Click the raise hand button if you want to ask a question or make a contribution at this point. All right. So we're just going to review, as I said, some key principles, some basic points on budgeting and money management. So the ABC. All right. And it's very important for us to always, remain grounded, as they say. And a nice way to remember that is the old adage, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a first step, with a single step. And this is what our Money Talk sessions are about. They're designed to help us all on our financial journey. But of course, we are at the starting point. This is where we start the conversation and start our journey together. Very important to personal financial management, setting goals, right? And a few points here. Number one, it's not a goal if there is not a plan. Many people would tell you if there is not a plan, it's just a dream. So in terms of your financial goals, maybe it's traveling the world, maybe it's retiring early. We know that we have our respective diverse goals, and it's important for us to recognize that planning is an important part of the process. So we set the goals, and then we break it down into a plan which we can follow to get us there, starting with that first step. A goal is intended, it's designed to challenge you. If it's a good goal, it's going to challenge you, it's going to inspire you, right? It's going to pull you forward. But of course, it's going to be something that is out of reach. It's not something that you are automatically going to achieve just by your normal routine. You should be setting something, setting a goal that is going to stretch you, that's going to take you a little bit out of your comfort zone, and help you to become better and stronger. All right, so of course, we're going to be looking at, and this is generally, but of course in terms of our own financial planning, we're going to be looking at short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. Some persons may be 2 years from retirement or 20 years, others will be 20 years from retirement. It's important for you to figure out, what are your goals in the short term, the medium term, in the long term, and for each of those to develop a plan to ensure that you can achieve the goals. But very importantly, be kind to yourself. We don't automatically hit the targets because these things are designed to be challenges. They are designed to stretch us. You might not achieve the goal that you set for yourself for June 2022, right? Or by the end of 2022, you aim to do A, B, and C, but you've only managed to do A and B, or maybe just A. It's important to be able to adjust, to change the timelines, to change the strategies, but to recognize that goal setting is something that you are going to be engaged in a continuous and a continual basis. All right. So they say if you want to achieve the goal, you have to plan the work and then work the plan. All right. And in the financial context, your budget is an important plan. And the word plan, sometimes people say, well, budget is just a guide, budget is just a plan. We're not going to hit that. We have to be, we have to accept that we are not necessarily going to achieve the things that we set down on paper. That is true, but it's not something that we should treat with so lightly, so flippantly as it was just a plan. It was just a guide, right? When you are hiring, engaging somebody to build your house, to build your office building, to build a bridge, would you tell the contractor or the builder, forget the plan, it was just a guide? No, of course not. And in the same way, your budget should be specific enough to give you clear guidance as you move toward your goal, right? So is your building plan just a guide? No. And by the same token, your budget is not just a guide. And when we talk about budgeting, it's important to put together a good budget. Here are a few things that I want you to remember as you develop a budget. Number one, a good budget is written, right? I mean, we all can play it off the cuff. We know, okay, I'm making $500 and I have to buy groceries, etc. And you go ahead and you do that and just manage the amount of money that you have as you go along. But that's not going to help you to achieve your financial goals, right? The first thing about a good budget is it is written. It's written down. So if you've not been in the habit of writing out your budget, then that is an important first step. Secondly, a good budgeting system in terms of achieving your goals. Remember we said we have short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. So one of the key things is paying yourself first. I'm sure you've heard that before, and for many of us, it takes a little while to figure out what that means because it's not always spelled out for us, all right? Paying yourself first means from your income, setting aside some of that money that is going to be to your benefit. Let me take a step back, all right? So just like the builder's plan and company's plan, your plan should be written. It's something you need to refer to while you work towards your goals, right? So we're saying first thing about the budget is it should be written. You are far more likely to follow your budget if it is written and kept in view. Notice the second point there. So don't just write it in a book somewhere and forget about it, but it should be somewhere where you will refer to it on a regular basis, where you have access to it, all right? Coming back to the second point, what does it mean to pay yourself first? You're the one making the money, so you are entitled to enjoy the benefits of it. And there are some benefits that would be in the short term. So maybe you have a reward plan for yourself for doing a good job of managing your finances. You're going to treat yourself in on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, with a vacation later in the year, whatever it is. And then, of course, you have to pay your future self, right? So you're doing something for your present self. So I'm going to buy myself a new suit. I'm going to buy myself a new car. I'm going to take a vacation. There are these things that I'm doing as I go along. And then you have your future self. What are you doing for retired you, right? What are you doing for you 5 years down the road? So paying yourself first means putting aside for yourself in the short term and also in the long term. All right? Okay, so just be careful, please, to keep your mic muted unless you are invited to share. If you have a question or you wish to make a contribution, click the raise hand button and I would be glad to facilitate. All right, so the next thing, the third point about budgeting and a good budget is that there's a clear definition of income. You have to know how much money you're working with, right? In business, when you talk about profit, the point is made that you know you have to pay the government's taxes, so you can't plan for the government's taxes, nor can you count what is owed to the government as the company's funds. So businesses will always talk about profit after tax, right? And so as an individual, you have income coming in, and it's important to determine, okay, what is my disposable income? What's available to me? So you're employed by the Ministry of Education, and at the end of the month, you know you're on the pay scale, you are supposed to get $10,000, $12,000 or $15,000, whatever it is. In reality, there are a number of deductions that will come out of that. And so you should be working with a clear sense of how much money is available to you at the end of the month and for that period. And of course, start by paying yourself first. Here's an interesting illustration here of different types of income. Okay, and one of the challenges that many of us would face is that we are working for money. We are living off of an earned income, right? Fixed income given to us by the employer. Beyond earned income, there are other ways to generate money, right? Profit from operating in some business activity, interest earned on money that you have put into an account. Maybe you've bought some government bonds, right? So that's interest income, dividend income from stocks in businesses that are listed on the stock exchange, rental income from property, capital gains because you have assets that are increasing in value over time, or royalties based on things that you have created, right? Maybe you have patents, maybe you have rights to music or some other intellectual property. So there are a number of other sources of income that we can explore, but it's also important to recognize that these forms of income may not necessarily be paid to us on a regular basis. They are not necessarily going to be monthly or weekly. And so the timing of that income is also something that you need to factor into your budget, right? So clearly define what your income is, where it's coming from, how often you expect to get it, and let that guide the process. But very importantly as well, just as important as knowing how much is coming in is knowing how much is going out. All expenses are identified in a good budget. And it may be that as you go along, you continue to identify things that you missed before, and you can bring that into your budgeting. So you have a more accurate tracing of the money that's coming in and out, right? Sometimes you have a subscription that you don't include in your budget. Maybe you have a Zoom account, maybe you have a Netflix account, something else that you didn't fit into the budget, and it keeps running. Maybe you just have, the habit of stopping off every so often to buy a few coconuts or to buy something at Rituals or Starbucks or going to the movies. Each of these things, as you identify them, should become part of your list of expenses so that you can better trace what's happening. Unidentified expenses are like leaks in a boot. If you aren't aware of them or don't deal with them, they will be the end of you, right? And in this sense, in this case, we're talking about the financial sense, and not identifying those expenses, those areas of expenditure, could mean that you're unable to properly manage your finances. And number 5 on our list of 5, a good budget reflects your goals. So if your goal is to travel when you retire, or your goal is to take a trip every year, or your goal is to build a house every 5 years, or to provide for your children or your parents, to invest and create something for the community, whatever your goals are, your budget should reflect that. So 5 points. I hope that's helpful. And finally, there are different ways to organize your budget. Here's one. You can certainly go online and explore, do a search for different budgeting methods. So here, for example, the outflows of cash are identified, categorized in 3 broad headings, right? So first, savings and debt. That's kind of a little bit of a risky mix there, right? I think it's important for us to identify what your savings target is and have that savings and investment as a section. Debt is something that you certainly want to be able to keep a close eye on and to manage effectively, right? But then in this case, 20% to savings and debt, 30% to wants, and 50% to needs. So you have your regular commitments, you have to pay your bills, you need to pay your bills, right? And then there are certain other things that you would need, food, the cost of transportation, etc. And then the wants would be the luxuries, the treats, the other things that you choose to purchase, all right? So budgeting, and we're gonna go now to money management. Pause there. We could spend a minute or two if you have any questions on what I have shared so far on budgeting, or if you want to make a suggestion to all of us here in terms of something that you've learned or something that has been of value to you in your personal budgeting. Anybody want to ask a question or share at this point? Patrice Duggins.
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to confirm if you were supposed to be sharing your screen or not.
Oh my goodness, Patrice, thank you.
Yes.
Did I not do that?
Yes, for the entire thing. So I just wanted.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that was a key. That was an example of you guys being too polite, right? So let's see, yes, right. So this is what I was referring to here in terms of this particular budgeting method. And as I said, there are others there are many others, right? I'm sure countless others. So you could do a search and identify something that works for you, right? How do you share that income pie that you're working with? Any other questions before we move on? So because I'm presenting from the slide there, I would not have been following the chat either, so I just ask co-host to assist with that, but so far so good. All right, so having covered some basics there on budgeting, we'll take a few more slides now just to deal with a few key principles of money management, and then we'll move to invite our guests. All right, so seven points that I want to share with you, right? So money management. Number 1, set goals and develop a plan. And we touched on that earlier as we talked about budgeting. It's important to set goals. That's the only way for us to really manage, right? Management is about working towards some specific target, controlling the resources that are available to us. Second, very important principle, spend less than you earn. I'm sure we are all aware of that. We've heard it, and it's critical that we discipline ourselves to do that in order to effectively manage our money. All right. Give each dollar a job. So as we said, your budget should reflect your goals. So what are your goals in terms of savings and investment? And therefore, what percentage of your income, what percentage of your disposable income are you going to direct towards savings and investment, right? If you have goals in terms of travel, leisure, in terms of home construction or investment in real estate or whatever the other things are, give every dollar a job. Assign your money to those specific things and make sure that you are disciplined to follow that plan, right? One of the books out there, and I was trying just now to remember the title of the book. Right, I think it's Retire Early, Retire Rich, something along those lines. And everybody's seeing the list now, is that correct? You're seeing the presentation now? Yes. Find your latte. That's what the author suggests. In other words, somebody might be in the habit of, just stopping off to get a beer, stopping off to get some coconuts, or stopping at Starbucks, but that's not on your budget. Okay, so those unidentified things in terms of managing your money, you need to find your latte. It may not be a latte, but it may be some other habit that you have where cash is flowing out and you're not tracing it. And then when you identify it, it's possible now to determine, hey, you know what? If I'm spending $20 a day on that, $100 a week, then that's $400 a month. How could I redirect those $400 per month in a way that is going to be rewarding to present me as well as future me? That's the task in terms of managing your money in a way that is going to ensure, very importantly, of the well-being of the future you. And at a time when the state, we're having discussions about raising the retirement age and making adjustments to how we access our pensions, it is evident that we need to be thinking more and more about how we are going to provide for ourselves in the future. Establish an emergency fund. That's important because from time to time things arise, right? It may be an issue with the car, it may be a medical issue, maybe something in terms of the family, whatever it is, events arise and we need to provide for those things. So establish an emergency fund, right? And now we're getting to the areas of interest, the things that most of us have not, well, let me not say most of us, but many people don't give enough thought to, right? And that is, how do we work for us? Let your money make money, all right? So the list earlier of different types of income, many people get stuck on that single source of income, right? Work for money. It's very important that we get to the point where we put money to work for us, okay? And so number 7 on our list of 7, learn the rules of saving and investment. Spend some time in yourself to be able to make those important financial decisions. If we don't have the information, don't have the wherewithal to deal with those things effectively, then chances are the outcome might not be as desirable as we would want it to be. All right. So today's session of Money Talk Sundays, we're looking at budgeting and money management, and we have guests invited our invited guests today who are going to present on the second aspect of today's business, which is saving and investment options. So I would stop here, and at the end of the session, right after our guests have presented, I would also want to share with you just a few online resources that are going to help you gather more information in terms of what are the savings, some of the savings and investment options that are out there, but also very importantly, how can you equip yourself? How can you gather additional information, learning, understanding on financial matters so that you might better be able to treat with these things, right? So I'm going to share some online resources with you at the end of today's session. At this point, I would want to invite the following persons to just say hello to our audience and then move into the presentation. We are supposed to have with us Vice President of Guardian Asset Management, Mr. Ricardo Hunt, Mr. Raphael Joseph, Senior Investment Advisor, and Manager of Sales at Guardian Asset Management, Chevron Ashton. So good afternoon and welcome to the Guardian Asset Management team. Yes, feel free at this point to introduce yourself and take the wheel. Chevron, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the invitation. I have to send apologies on behalf of our VP, Mr. Hunt. He was really looking forward to coming, but unfortunately something popped up. So he kind of reached out to me in the presentation to say that he could not attend. And well, Raphael, I think, is still in the sky trying to make his way here.
Yes,
so,
all right.
So it's me, you'll have all of me this afternoon.
Very glad to have you.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you touched on the points because it means that I have a platform to move forward on, right? I was almost like, did he see my notes? Because what a lot of y'all don't know is that at Guardian Asset Management is the investment of the Guardian Holdings Group. So most people, when they hear Guardian, they think of insurance, right? But we also have, as part of the group of companies, an investment company, which is where I sit. And a lot of times what we do is, apart from managing the money for the different insurance products and pension funds, is that we actually provide investment solutions to the wider public, as well as our staff. So a lot of times I do these same money management presentations to our actual staff, and a lot of the information that Mr. Joseph would have shared would have been the very said information that I would have shared with our staff, time and time again, our new hires as well as our existing colleagues that just kind of need a refresher. So this is all very golden information, so I hope you all took note. So in order for me to share, it will mean that I would need host rights, but what I'm going to ask, you don't have to give me host rights, you can probably just share on my behalf, and I'll just kind of nod to let you know to move on to the other slide. Are you okay with that? Yeah?
Sure, no problem at all.
All right, great. All right, good. So you can, lovely.
Yes.
Lovely. So great. So guys, I'm coming to you from my home. It's not on the beach, but I just kind of put a background because it's Sunday evening and this is where I wish I was at this point in time, just taking in the sea breeze, right? So Guardian Asset Management Investment Services Limited, that's our full name, GAMACEL. We are your partners to financial success, at least we intend to be, right? And with that, I would like to introduce myself. I mean, I kind of gave it before. That's me, pre-COVID and probably a few pounds lighter. I am the sales manager at Guardian Asset Management. I've been with the company just before COVID in September 2019, but I've actually been in financial services for well over 20-something years. So I have a bit of experience behind me. Most of that time was actually spent within the capital markets environment, where I worked in trust companies and merchant banks, and as well, of course, in the front line with investment sales. And I am now part of the Guardian Holdings Group, just kind of sharing my passion for investment and, of course, for making persons' life, enhancing persons' financial status. So that's me in a nutshell. Let's get on with our agenda. So why are we here today? Now, we're going to touch on a few things, but here are a few questions that I usually get asked. How do I plan for the unplanned, right? Planned income. So I'm glad that you all did budgeting, because budgeting is a planned income. But what about the unplanned income? What do I do with that? And you know, you all spoke about goals and making sure that your budget reflects your goals. It's important to note what product best suit the goals that you have. Because a lot of times, you know, you meet persons and they say, do this, buy this, invest this, and you don't know, well, is this in line with what I want as an individual? So we're going to explore some of that. And here's what's very important. You're going to see it twice. Pitfalls that should be avoided. And I can tell you from time to time, I go back and I review these presentations, because I too sometimes come before a pitfall and wonder, okay, Siobhan, careful now, you might just step in, right? So it's a good tool to remember and to look at and to make sure that you're avoiding these pitfalls. So unplanned income. You know, for some it's bonus. Now I know in the public service there isn't a bonus per se. So guys, don't come at me for this in terms of relevance. But there are other sources of unplanned income other than Lotto, right? Did anyone win that 15.2? I don't know. I didn't buy a ticket, so I know it's not me, right? But the thing is, there are other sorts of unplanned income. Sometimes, you know, you get, sometimes there's back pay, sometimes there's other things that come up that is unplanned. And the question is always what to do. So we touched on the fundamentals, which is pay yourself first. Pay yourself first. And paying yourself first, this is what we usually refer to in terms of paying yourself first, in terms of the tangible side of it, right? So we have the emergency fund, we have repayment of debt, and we have actually investing the money. So we're going to go through this bit by bit. So let's look at the next slide. So the first that we're going to touch on is the emergency fund. And a lot of times persons ask, well, is my emergency fund enough? Is it, how much is enough for an emergency? And the rule of thumb is ideally you want to have 6 months expenses covered. You want to put that money somewhere where it's very accessible. So when we say high liquidity, we mean it's very easy to get. It's not any kind of stress to get access to it. It's somewhere where it can't be in a here today, gone tomorrow scenario, right? So you can't put the emergency fund in the DSS, guys. And it has to be affordable to maintain. You don't want to put it somewhere where the charges are literally eating away at your emergency fund. So here are these two ladies. One is speaking to an advisor, and the other one, much like yourselves, a teacher, speaking to an advisor and asking, well, what are a good option in terms of emergency fund placement? And guys, bear with me, I have to pay the bills, but it's good information. So now we have something that is called the TT Monthly Income Fund. This is a product, yes, at Guardian Asset Management. But here why this product best suits an emergency fund. One, it offers easy access, high liquidity. You can stay on your phone, your smartphone, or whatever device you have, and request a withdrawal, and the funds are settled to your bank, your savings, checking, whatever account within 2 working days. And depending on who you bank with, it might very well be the same day. There is, oh, back up a little bit, not quite quite yet. The other thing is it's low risk. So it's like a bank account, right? So you find that it's not like a here today, gone tomorrow. There's no kind of movement on it. You do get returns. So you do get interest every single month. It's nothing to jump up about, but guess what? It's more than you will get in a bank account. Because in a bank account, we know that the only thing you get in a bank account is charges, right? Which takes me to my next point. This fund actually has no cost, no charges. So even when we send the money to you, you're not penalized, you're not even charged for us to send the money back to your bank account. When we are, if you said, okay, let's do a standing order so I can pull the money every month, there aren't any charges for doing that as well. And there aren't any annual charges. So you find it's very affordable. So if you're looking to create a emergency fund that represents 6 months of your monthly expenses, so it means that we have to budget to know what those expenses are. This is a pretty good solution because it ticks all those boxes. Also, too, there aren't any requirements for future payments. So you can do what I call a one and done. So you can put the money there and just walk away and leave it. And there's no one or no need to come and do future top-ups or it will get stale-dated or go dormant and all these other things that tend to happen with other type products. So you good, guys? I'm hoping so. So I'm hoping you're starting to see the value because an emergency fund is something that everybody needs. So, you know, life happens. The next is repaying or prepaying on debt. And this session, when I do this session within the company, within Guardian Holdings, I always tell them that it's not always just about product pushing. Sometimes it's just about giving good information. So while at GAM, our core business, or even within the group, our core business is not loans. This is just good information for you to have. So prepaying on your debt actually saves you money now. There is prepaying and repaying. So prepaying is just when you pay it in advance, right? Repaying is when you actually pay on the principal. Because as you all would know, or some of you all may know, that interest is charged on your balance. So when your balance reduces, interest payment that you make reduces. So if you make, that's why they tend to tell you to try and pay a little extra on your mortgage before, right? Because, you know, mortgages, as much as is 5% and 7% and thing, you know, it adds up over that long period of time. So if it is you can reduce the principal in which interest is being paid, if interest is being calculated, you will find in the long run, you will be saving money. Now, you want to save, you want to repay on debts, things like loans and hire purchase, credit cards, all these things are considered debts. So it's not just loans, it's the credit cards, it's the hire purchase, it's all of the above. Anything in which you owe. Okay, so next slide. So, strategies. Now, there are many schools of thoughts in terms of repaying debts. And just like budgeting, it's really good if you write it down, right? So set a goal. Make sure you're very clear as to what you want and when you want it to happen by. Create a list of everybody you owe in for every circumstance and try to figure out, okay, this is the monthly payment and as best as possible, this is the interest that I pay on this on a monthly or annual basis, and this is how much is outstanding. Make sure you gather that information and make a plan and stick to it. Now, yes, good. So, you know, again, when I talk to people about this, because it's about financial planning, guys, it's not just about investing, it's about financial planning and financial health and wellness. So a lot of times people say, well, which debt do I pay off first? And again, there are many schools of thought. But here is what I've tried and I've found to be very true and most meaningful to me and to my clients. Repay the debt that is costing you the most amount of money. I'm going to repeat that. Repay the debt that is costing you the most amount of money. So if it is you have debts that are 2%, 5%, and 7%, those aren't priority debts as the ones that are costing you 15, 20, and 30, and in some instances, even 50%. Those high interest-bearing debts are the ones you want to pay off first, because that's where you'll make the biggest savings. I mean, other persons will say, just to free up, because again, if your challenge is not so much how much you're spending in interest, but your challenge is, I don't have any money to spend after I pay all my debts, then you might want to pay off the loan that has the smallest remaining balance so that you could free up some cash to use. But so that's another strategy as well. But I find repaying the one that is costing you the most pain is the most effective. So over to our next strategy, investing. Now, of these three options that I mentioned for that 30% in terms of repaying debt, and you don't have to do one or the other. You can do a little bit of all three, right? But of the three, in terms of creating an emergency fund, repaying debt, the only one that really generates wealth is investing. Investing is the only one that's going to do that for you, because that is what will allow you, as you say, to pay your future self and to keep abreast of inflation. So your current wealth is able to sustain you in the future and generate wealth. Next slide. So here's the question. Where should I be investing for the long-term gains? And this is something, and you're going to see it in the pitfalls as well, right? This is something that I always recommend that you do in tangent with a financial advisor, not a salesperson, a financial advisor. Because the key word here that this person said was long-term. And once you are looking at long-term gains, it means you should be looking at equity. So we gave a solution here at GAM, which is our Pan-Caribbean Equity Fund. And these allow for wealth generation. So if you look at a company that would have come into existence 20 years ago, and you look at it now, in terms of how its value has grown over time, that shows you how equity works. Because here it is, you're buying into a company that is worth $1 million today in hopes that it's worth 50 million in the next 5 to 10 years. And because you're a part owner of it, your money grows with you. And this is what will get you there in the long term. Now, here are some key points that you have to be mindful of in terms of investing. Pitfalls to avoid. Okay, so before we even get there, pitfalls to avoid when you are spending that unplanned income. Don't spend it in your head before you get it in your hand, right? So a lot of times we're spending money before we actually get it. Totally unaware of all the different deductions, taxes, and all the other things that will come up, right? And not sticking to that 30% requirement of paying yourself first. Either your future self, reducing your current situation in terms of debt management, and ensuring that your current self has an emergency plan to fall on. The next thing is we try to help people before we help ourselves. When you are traveling, every time they do that whole routine, the flight attendants do that whole routine, they always tell you, put on your oxygen mask before you put on the person in your care's oxygen mask. Because in the process of you trying to help someone, you can lose consciousness and neither nor will be able to help the other party. So avoid putting on life jackets on someone else before you have secured yourself. Stop taking money from your future self. So if this money is earmarked for retirement, this money is earmarked for investments, don't cash out for short-time wants or short-term needs. That's what your emergency fund is for. Your future self needs this money even more so because they will be have battled time and in from them. Don't be too strict with it, right? So you want to have a frugal mindset, but you don't want to be cheap. And every time I do this, I think of my dad, right? Because my dad has the frugal mindset down to a T. But quality purchases is something that we have an intense communion with in terms of conversation when it comes time to spend money, right? Because he keeps that frugal mindset for spending. Sometimes it's good to spend a little more to get quality, right? Because if there is no reward to what you're doing, you're less likely to hold true to it. So we want to have a frugal mindset, but we don't want to be cheap because then we'll cheat ourselves and forego that instant gratification. Sometimes, not all the times, but forego it. Make sure that your spending is planned. So the great Warren Buffett says, never depend on a single source of income. So when I heard Mr. Joseph speak about that, I was like, surely he has seen my notes, because this is something that we always speak about. Make investments and a second source of income. So again, I have teachers who are clients. I have teachers who are friends. I have teachers who are family. And I know that it's not only is it it's a profession that is highly vested in the heart, but it requires you to give a lot of yourself mentally, emotionally, and there is little tangible reward. And a lot of times you'll get really creative, get the results that is required from those that are entrusted to you. And sometimes without a thank you or reward, right? So, and some of you would, well, you know, you would do the lessons and stuff to kind of make up because your family needs you as well. But apart from the time that you are investing and the expertise, because teaching is an expertise that you are giving, you can actually make your money work for you. Make your money work for you. So let's look at the next slide. Right. So before we get to this, I want to say something, right? Everything that we have, we try to make it earn something for us. You have a car, you put the car on the road to make money for taxi. You have a house, you might rent out a room for rental income. Why is it then that we don't allow our cash to earn an income for us? I want us to think about that. Just think about that, because that's what investing is. Investing is making sure that all your resources, including your cash, is working for you and earning you an income. So I just put here a few goals, a few generic goals. And let's look and see some tips and some things that we can figure out, right? So the scenario here is a newlywed couple and they're thinking about acquiring a home. And guys, remember I said this is a financial wellness session. So it's not just about product, right? Yes, we have a product for every situation, but some of it is just good sense, right? So, and they're trying to figure out, well, they're together, we want to own a home and we're looking to do this within 3 to 5 years. First thing is, I always tell people, get pre-qualified and figure out what you can borrow in terms of what it is your mortgage payment is going to look like and what it is the financial institutions are willing to lend you. You don't have to go to anybody to do this. I tend to direct persons to companies' websites, go on it, plug in their information so you don't feel judged in any way. You plug in the information and you get it. Now, when you figure out what that is, let's just say your goal is to own a home for $1.5 million. That's the budget you're going with. The down payment that you will need is like around 10%, right? So that's $150,000. So you want to start to work it back. So that's $150,000 by either 36 months or 60 months. Work it back and put it into something that is generating income, that is generating cash. Yes, we do have a product for it. It's noted here. You guys can feel free. Mr. Joseph has my contacts. We can speak one-on-one afterwards, offline. But I'm just giving you all good tips in terms of how you make this work for you. When I started working very young in the game, I literally started when I was 17. I said, you know what? When I got pre-qualified and I looked at, okay, this is how much if I had a mortgage, I would have paid in mortgage payments every month. So this is money that should never reach my expenditure. And because I started renting very young, you find what I did was I said, my rent should never surpass this amount of money, because it means I'm living above my means. And apart from that, because I was saving towards a down payment, I knew that my rent should not be substantially close to what my mortgage payment would be. And I kept that discipline. Guys, I rented for like 10 years. So I'm a proud homeowner now, but I literally rented for 10 years with that discipline. And a lot of times my peers would be like, why are you living in a 1-bedroom apartment? You could afford more. You make the same amount as us. And I was like, but I had a plan. So these are some tips that you want to look at as an individual or even as part of a union in terms of ensuring that monthly money. And if it is you're blessed enough to be in a situation where you don't have to pay for a roof over your head, make sure that that mortgage amount is going to an account that will get you, or to an investment that can get you your down payment within that designated time. Next scenario. Guys, we come into the end. We're on like the second or third one or something to last, right? Our legacy plan. So this is generic to everyone. To you as parents, potential parents, aunts, aunties, and even caretakers for young ones. As we know, the gate is closing. It's becoming more and more difficult to get funding for tertiary level education. So our parents have the task of trying to figure out how they are going to provide for their younger ones and ensure that they achieve all the things that they want to in life and not limited financially. My thing is, you need to look at some options that allow that. And the sooner you start, just like retirement, the better for you. We have something called a LEAP Legacy Plan. It's very attractive, and I'll just tell you why. It's because you can put the child's name on it. There is, and the commitments can be as small as $100. You can give, when godparents or aunties and uncles ask, well, what the child want for Christmas? They want a contribution to their education plan. That's what they want. That's what they need. They don't need a new jeans or sneakers. What they need is to see about their future. And should something happen to you, should your maker call you home before that child turns the age of 18, that investment will stay there, continue to earn interest. And at the age of 18, the child can come in and access all of the funds without a probate and without anybody taking their inheritance from them. So you could rest assured that that child's goal can be realized even in your absence. So, last scenario. So I hope I have you all thinking, because all these are generic goals, right? So we have, guys, we have the Aqua. You know, this is like the most popular vehicle in Trinidad now. I don't know why. To me, I find them very annoying because they could literally be behind you idling and you don't know, because they just kind of roll up on you. In any event, if you are looking to get a vehicle and you're kind of working towards it, and you have most of the funds and you plan to get it, let's say, to get by that vehicle within a year time. So you have, you don't want to go through the process of a loan or the dealership themselves, because you find the interest rate high and you were pretty good saving towards it. Here are some tips that you can look at. Get quotations, and you don't want to get quotations just for the vehicle. You want to get quotations on the insurance, as well as, and make sure that you're comfortable for a year, right? As well as the consumption in terms of fuel efficiency. I can speak to that because I bought a vehicle that I was very excited and passionate about. And then when I started driving it, I was like, this is a guzzler. So now I tell everybody, listen, I'm rolling on premium. We're not driving all over the place. Just no. Just kind of limit me. Some week we carpooling, and this week ain't my week, right? So so guys, consumption is very important. Work back that initial cost in terms of that down payment, insurance, gas, and everything, as I said, and make sure you're comfortable with it before you settle on that purchase. And establish a monthly amount that you can put to get you there within the time. This is all budgeting, guys. That's what it is. But don't just budget for the purchase. Budget for the purchase and the associated costs with it. So these are some generic goals. And with that, just a little food for thought. An investor without investment objectives is like a traveler without a destination. Again, another saying that I find very useful to us. So next slide. Just food for thought for us to think about. Oh, some more pitfalls. I knew I put the pitfalls in somewhere. I'll go quick with this one, right? So don't expect a smooth ride with investments. It's not realistic, right? So just like life, investments go up and down. And just like company success, there are times when they're doing exceptionally well and there are times when there are pullbacks. But if you invest in something good, even with the movements, it will be good, right? Stop trying to time the market. Don't listen, there's no such thing as best time, good time, right time, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. In December 2019, I remember a manager for one of our branches, our Garden Life branches, asked me, Siobhan, this COVID thing, should I be worried? What should I do? Should I cash out my equities? And I was like, no. I said, you need that money anytime soon, like a year, 2 years, 3 years? He's like, no, that's my long-term plan. So I said, well, then leave it. Worst case scenario comes, you get a good opportunity for buying. in March 2020, that man didn't even want to look at me because he was so pissed because the market pulled so much, right? Because everything, you remember, like countries were shut down, nothing was operating, people was working from home with limited, plants were closed. It was a mess. And that affected the entire stock market. Nobody knew that would have happened. No one knew it would have happened. But guess what? As I told them, worst case scenario, you get a good buying opportunity. He didn't buy because he was too vexed with me. But guess what? For those who did buy in March, in August, they made 20% returns on their money, right? So don't try to time it. Just be consistent and just know that it's not about timing. It's a matter of the time within the investment. Not timing, time within. Don't take on too much risk. And at the same time, don't take on too little risk. That is why you need to speak to your advisor, to a professional. Don't make emotional decisions. So just because someone posts an ad and says 24% returns, you run and you invest, and you are somebody who need your money by the end of the year. Because we don't know what's going to happen in the next few months, that's danger zone. That's a knee-jerk reaction. That's you being emotional and hoping for the same luck or good fortune. It goes against all investment principles. High risk, high returns means you have to have some time to realize those high returns. You must diversify. So remember we spoke about that emergency fund and the investing. That's diversification, because an emergency fund is short term. Investing is long term. You must have a mixed, because we are not single as individuals. We have multiple needs as persons. So we have to make sure that we are placing funds to take care of who we are. We will always have immediate needs. And I mean, we're not working to die, right? So we're hoping to be able to enjoy our future at some point in time. And stop focusing on returns as opposed to managing the risks. Focus, look and see, focusing. A lot of times people are like, well, how much I'm making here? Nah, I want 12%. I want 12% too. But the thing is a 12% solution worth me taking on that risk? Is 30% or 3 times my money worth me putting my money somewhere where somebody could just exit a chat and that's the end of my life, right? That's the end of my investment. And always be sure to seek that professional advice when it comes to investing. So next, I think that takes us to the end of the presentation. Let me see the next slide. Yes, that is the end of our presentation. So guys, thank you all so much for your patience. And I'm here. Ask a question. Anything that I didn't cover, anything that you find I would have glossed over and you would like a little more information on, feel free to ask away.
All right, so we have two hands raised. Okay, hands are going up.
Great.
Okay. So we have Sunday.
Sunday Gopal, is it Gopal? Oh, no, Gopal Chan, yes. How may I help you? And please call me Siobhan, just by chance. Just by chance, call me Siobhan. I'm in a room of teachers, so when people call me my last name, I know going to school, when your teacher calls you by your last name, you're in trouble. So please call me Siobhan.
Hi, good afternoon, Siobhan. Excellent.
Good afternoon.
And colleagues. I just have one question. I was looking at the TT monthly income fund, right? What are the requirements to start the fund, and is there a minimum amount required to start?
Yes. So yes, so that's a great question. So to start, what you need is 2 forms of ID that are not expired. You need proof of address, You will need either a job letter or pay slip. And I'll tell you why. The reason why is because we don't want the persons who selling weed at the corner to come and invest, right? We're trying to stick within the confines of the law. So we ask for a job letter and pay slip.
Hey.
And while officially the documentation says 10,000 to start, you find that we tend to be flexible with when we're dealing with mass audiences, and we accept a $500 contribution so that it's affordable for persons now starting. Right, so officially in black and white it says 10,000, but through your advisor you can actually start with a contribution of $500. A little tip that I always recommend for persons when they are doing this in terms of sign up for your proof of address, use your bank statement, because what we tend to do is that we keep apart from your address, we will keep your banking information so that when time comes for us to deposit money back to your account, we aren't now asking you for your bank statement to verify the account that the funds is to go in, because at that point in time, it may be a sensitive time to get the money, and you may be a little stressed. So just use that. So just a little tip. You don't have to, but it's just a little tip because, you know, life happens and we don't know when and how.
All right, thank you for that, Siobhan. We have Patrice Duggins.
Hi, good evening. Just want to say great presentation. When it comes to finances, I feel it's very, very complicated, right? So it was nice, you know, just to give some insight. I just want to ask if you would be able to just go back to that slide where you had prepaying and repayment of debt, some of the strategies there. I don't know if that's possible. Yes. And I just want to ask what fund is there if you just want to invest your money and you know, get some money, because you know debt's a bit high, so you're trying to get down that debt. And apart from the other things that you could do with your skills, like, you know, like making those kind of investments that you was talking about, which one will be a good one to start with?
Right. So, okay. So you asked a couple of questions here. Let me make sure I get them one by one, so I don't ramble on, right? So in terms of repaying debt, even though we don't have like particular funds for debt repayment, it's something that I like to speak about because nobody else does, because it's not in their best interest to talk about it. Repayment of debt is something that benefits you and you alone, no financial institution. So they're not going to tell you about it. But as I said, I was actually in banking for 21 years, right, before going to GAM. So, and I was part of plenty initiatives when the Petrotrin closed up. I was in the forefront giving financial planning under the bank at the time to those guys. And sometimes I used to have to excuse myself to go and cry for them and come back in and dry my eyes and stuff, because a lot of people were not ready for the change. And they didn't take the time to access the resources and get the information before, because they always thought it was always going to be sunshine, right? So they never asked the question. So that being said, repayment of debt or managing debt, as much as I worked in the bank for 21 years, I am very sensitive when it comes to taking on debt. Very, very sensitive when it comes to taking on debt. So I measure it and I look at it very carefully. The good news is that everybody wants you to borrow from them. That gives you purchasing power to shop around. Shop around. Even if you bank with one bank, it doesn't mean that you cannot check 4 others to get a quotation, because they will want you. Specifically, you as teachers, you all are preferred clients. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. You all are preferred clients. In terms of managing that debt, when you look and you see there's some things that generally are very expensive debts. Credit cards is one of the most expensive debts that you can access from a bank. I don't have a credit card anymore. I'll be honest with you. I don't, right? It's not something that is for everybody, but I just made that decision after leaving the bank, and they took away my staff credit card and I decided I'm not paying for this. That's not for everybody, right? But that was a choice that I made. But credit card debt is something that you want to manage. You do not have to pay charges on a credit card if you clear the balance before the payment period. So you have to be disciplined with it, because lack of discipline causes pain. In terms of loans, specifically loans, hire purchase is probably right up there along with borrowing from non-banking institutions. And I don't want to call names, but there are some institutions out there that make borrowing very easy, but they charge you for the risk that they are assuming. And they charge you ridiculous amounts to borrow. Those guys, if you have to access a loan from them, you want to pay them back sooner rather than later, because you'll end up paying 3 times as much what it is you borrowed. I think some of you all know who that institution is in particular I'm referring to. I'm not going to call names because it's not about that, right? But what it is you want to look at, for every dollar, remember that Mr. Joseph said for every dollar, a dollar must have a purpose, right? So if it is this dollar purpose is going to cost me 10 cents, and then this next dollar purpose is to cost me 30 cents, I would want to prioritize not having to spend this dollar that is going to cost me 30 cents. So that's what I mean about repaying debt. You want to be clear. The only way you could know is if you list it out. You have to know that, okay, I have a mortgage, I have a car loan, I have a consumer loan, I have a credit card, and I might have something with higher purchase. Which one is costing me the most amount of money? I need to get rid of that sooner rather than later. So, you know, and you could budget for that, right? Because in banking, you too are on a fixed salary. When you get a bonus, it's like, and what I used to do, even when the bonus came, I would make sure that a portion of that money always went to repaying 1 or 2 of my debts. Not paying it off, but repaying it, because it meant that it was how much ever interest more in my pocket. The other question that you asked, so we don't have a product, but I hope that answered your question in terms of strategies for repaying debt. What was the other question?
Just in terms of anything that you could invest in that will kind of give you some returns, not too long, like medium. So it's almost like if you're trying to have a business or something that bringing in money in the investment arena, you know? Right. So I just wanted to ask about that.
Right. So, so Patrice, the thing is, what we do in terms of investing, we always say, look at what you want to get out of the investment. Don't look at the investment, look at what you are looking for. So investments can do generally 3 things for you. It can either protect your wealth, it can grow your wealth, or it can help you earn an income on your wealth. So I always tell people, to protect your wealth means that you actually have to grow it. You actually have to grow it first. And a lot of times people go to the protective state and not the growth stage. So you have to start with growth. And in terms of looking for investments, if you're looking for growth, you have to look at something that has equity in terms of company shares. Now, you could go to a stockbroker and you could pick some company shares and invest in it as an individual, or you can look at an equity fund. So we noted on the deck our GAM Pan-Caribbean Fund that has equities in it, and it actually has bonds. So it means that it's nothing too roller coaster like, right? Because Trinidad, one, stock market doesn't have all the action that you see in the US. So we don't like go up to 300% and then drop to 5 the next day. We don't have those kind of actions in Trinidad, right? So plus two, we also have bonds in there, and not to get too technical, bonds kind of keep the investment, it kind of stabilizes it, right? Because the value of the bond is not going to change significantly. You know, it's just, it's there. It's like a nice wholesome piece of meat that you're going to get just gravy on it every month or every quarter or every year or whatever. So it keeps it whole. So a nice balanced fund for a non-savvy investor who doesn't know how to evaluate what is a good stock for me. You can look at equity-based or balanced mutual funds for investing. I don't know what is the mix of individuals here in terms of demographics and age and that type of thing, but I'm going to put a plug, as you mentioned, that we have a product that is new to the Trinidad market, which is called I didn't feature it here, but you can go on our website and check it out. It's called our Genius Robo investment app. It's pretty sexy and revolutionary in where it's an app that is doing the investing for you. You go on, you answer a ton of questions. It figures out what profile best suits Patrice versus who went on Samadeh versus Sheldon versus everybody else. It just figures out who you are, and it invests and rebalances the portfolio consistently for you. It's an app. So all you're doing is putting money as you see fit or as you're able to, and the app is doing the buying and the selling and the trading. You don't have a say though. The app is doing all the work. So you can check that out as well, because it's specific to you. But at the same time, it's, because I know we all have our trust issues, right? Like, this person telling me this advisor looking to get something, but the app is a good option as well for you.
Thanks very much for mentioning that. And of course, yes, we know that, you're here representing Guardian Asset Management, so you would definitely have to share about your products. That's welcome. I just want to put a couple of things on the table quickly in the question. Patrice, nice question, and thanks for the response, Siobhan. Just a couple of things. Remember, of course, as you walk away from this session, we want to encourage you, if you are looking at a particular issue, to contact a specific professional and get advice that is relevant to your needs. But in terms of repaying debt and prepaying debt, there are definite benefits, as Siobhan pointed out. And in the discussion there, we touched on the importance of the rates, because earlier in the presentation, Siobhan pointed to the fact that you might have different debt items which carry different rates of interest. That's one of the things you want to consider. But of course, there are also, in those contracts, sometimes penalties for prepayment, early payment. There may be amounts that you are allowed to pay in a specific period. So review the contract, talk with the representatives at a particular company, and of course, you may also want to talk with an independent advisor, right? But I think Patrice kind of hinted at it as well, in that paying off the debt, prepaying the debt is, those are options, but there are also other alternatives. You might want to look at, if I have $10,000, let's say, and you're considering putting that to reducing the debt, reducing the interest that might be payable on the debt, there might be options in terms of investment. So Patrice, suggested, investing, starting a business, that kind of thing. And consider what you might be able to generate if you use that money in the investment form rather than paying off the debt. So there's a lot to consider. It's really not an easy answer, and there's no one answer that's going to fit everybody. Somebody was commenting in the chat as well, as you mentioned, credit cards and credit card debt. The fact is that, credit cards are becoming a necessary evil. Katya is suggesting, lots of people are looking at online shopping and engaging in different kinds of transactions. But as Siobhan said, it's very important. If the critical thing about credit cards is the discipline to be able to manage your spending and to make those payments in a timely fashion. Once you clear that off in the particular period, then there's no interest. So you're basically just using it as a tool rather than actually getting into debt. Okay, so pay attention to the terms related to the particular credit card. And certainly, as Siobhan said, she would be available to answer your questions. You can reach out to her directly, Siobhan. I think the messages would come directly to me. I can put it in the chat. What information I can put it as a message?
I can put in my...
Let me put it. I'll put your. What do you want to share? Email address and telephone, or just email?
Yes, you can send my mobile as well as my email address. Reason being is that, like everybody else, sometimes I work at home, sometimes I work at head office, sometimes I work at the office closest to me. So mobile and email is the best way to get me.
Remind me, so it's Siobhan.Ashton at
myguardiangroup.com.
myguardiangroup.com.
Correct, yes.
All right, so we'll take the two more questions. I think we had Javans and Sheldon. Just a couple of questions. We'll wrap up this discussion. And as I said, I just want to share a few online resources. Siobhan has mentioned there, you can go to the Guardian Group website and access what they have there, so the products that are available there, as well as the Genius Robo investing app. Is that it?
Yes, yes.
Yes. All right. Siobhan, just tell me the telephone number. Let me type it here, please. Your mobile number.
It's 480 77
Yes.
28.
28.
28 7728.
Right. Okay, folks. So it's in the chat there. You have the email address, siobhan.ashton@myguardiangroup.com, and her mobile number listed there. Okay. So quick question, Javans, I see the hand is going down.
Maybe Javan was asking. Oh no, his hand is back up. Okay.
All right. So yeah, so we let Javans and then Sheldon, and we're looking to wrap up this segment quickly, and then I'll just show you guys a few online resources that you might want to use separately. All right. So thanks, Siobhan. Here we have Javans.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, Siobhan. I just wanted to know if you could tell me what's the difference between the Student Opportunity Saver and the plan that was on your slideshow earlier on.
The legacy plan?
The legacy versus which one?
The Student Opportunity Saver.
Right. So, yeah. So the Student Opportunity Saver, that's a Guardian Life product, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes, so I have to be honest with you. Yeah, so I have to be honest with you, Javans. I am not too savvy with our Guardian Life product because that is not where I sit, to be honest. But I can tell you about our legacy product, which makes it quite unique in that our legacy product consists of it has the investment in itself. You find that it's very affordable and it can be used as collateral for future borrowings, as well as you can withdraw on it without any penalties as well. Usually the products that you get coming out of the life side of the business tends to be designed to ensure that persons retain that discipline. So you find that it has some lock-in features, right, that makes it a little less accessible to you. I do stand to be corrected because, as I said, I'm not too sure of the product, but I would say that our product is affordable in that you do not have you don't have the charges associated with it, and you do not, in terms of deposits as well as withdrawals, and it can be used as collateral on loans, be it, because we do actually do loans. It's not a huge part of our portfolio, but we do loans, but also within at any other financial institution as well. So I'm sorry I can't give the comparison, but as I said, we have the life side of the business, and I sit very comfortably on the investment side. So my apologies for that.
All right, thank you. And Sheldon has a question.
Yeah, Sheldon.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I was in terms of the protection of your cash, you were suggesting to invest in mutual funds or mutual-based funds, right? Correct?
Well, I was suggesting a particular mutual funds, because not
Okay.
all mutual funds are created the same, right? So there's different types.
Okay, cool. And I'm asking, won't it be safer to invest in precious metals, as well as, I'm not sure if we spoke about annuities. Generally, the rule of thumb, what is the percentage of your income that you should apportion to an annuity type investment?
Okay, so
that's
let me
basically my
take
question.
it. Okay, it's a loaded one, though, Sheldon. Thanks on a Sunday evening. Okay, so in terms of the precious metals, right? Here's my quandary with precious metals. Investing in precious metals means that you're investing into the precious metals market. And while that has been resilient, it's not highly liquid. So remember the purpose that I mentioned that TT Monthly Income Fund was for an emergency fund. So if an emergency comes up and you're invested in precious metals, it would mean that you would have to sell that equity, and they're in selling it. It's not like just a straight out sale, right? It would usually mean that there has to be a buyer. So it means a trade has to happen. And that is done not on the local market, that's done internationally. And local brokers here that have international brokers that act on their behalf. They have something what is called T+2, which is 2 days for trade upon both parties agreeing to the buying and selling price. And then the funds are remitted either via wire transfer and then or by check. By that point in time, hi.
Siobhan, let me just interject. No, I was talking not based on liquidity. I was talking about excess cash that I have. So basically, you will have emergency cash. You will have an emergency fund set up. So this will just be excess liquidity that you just want to protect in the event of, whatever. You just want to protect and preserve your cash, basically. Not all your cash. This would just be like excess cash, So the liquidity to change it and so forth, that's right, not good,
All right. With me, in terms of precious metals, how are you going to get it? Is it that you're buying it on the stock market, or you just want to buy gold and put it down, right? Because when you're selling back gold, you sell it for less than you bought it for. So maybe I should have asked what exactly you meant by investing in precious metals. Is it an outright investment in terms of the stock market, or is it?
Permit me to intervene here, right? Because yes, what's going to happen here is that we need to have a very specific and direct response. So that Sheldon, I understand the question, and I think some persons here, Siobhan certainly has some insight into the precious metals market and how that happens here in Trinidad and Tobago. But what we would want to do here is to stick to the very general discussion so that everybody benefits. as Sheldon was saying with his interjection there just now, the answer to the question would depend on where you are as an individual in terms of the capital that's available for the investment. And we would also then have to consider what are your goals, what are your objectives with the investment, right? So your risk appetite, I'm sure Siobhan would agree, advise that for each individual, you have to consider what is your risk appetite, how much capital do you have available overall, what's the type of return that you are looking at, and what time frame do you want to get that return. So there are a number of factors to consider with any type of investment, and certainly we would have to consider all of those factors in looking at precious metals as well. So rather than going down that very specific road, I want to thank you, Sheldon, for the question. I'm glad you have Siobhan there demonstrating some insights. You might want to reach out to her by phone or email.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yes, definitely. Siobhan, I'll follow it up with an email, a direct email to you in due course, right? Thanks much for the
input. You can take it offline because I
Sure. So thanks for being a good sport there, Siobhan, right? Taking the question, as you said, Sunday afternoon, it might have been a little more specific, a little more of a heavier question than you might have anticipated there. Thanks for being a good sport. And I certainly want to thank you on behalf of our members. We went over 90 persons in the conversation there for a while, for taking the time to be here with us this afternoon, for all that you shared with us, the insights in terms of what we might want to do with the excess cash that we have now, or hopefully in the not too distant future, teachers would have some back pay coming to them, or maybe we do have a lot of winner in the room. We don't know. Persons are retiring as well and looking at what to do with the some of that lump sum, the gratuity payments and that kind of thing. And persons may have other sources of income. So thanks for giving us some suggestions as to what we could consider in terms of using those funds, putting those funds to use in dealing with our present needs, and reminding us as well that we have to consider our future self and our future needs. All right. And thanks again on behalf of our members for sharing your contact information. They have expressed thanks via the chat, and I know that there are probably going to be quite a few of them reaching out to you. We're sorry that your colleagues weren't able to join us. I have been dealing with Raphael over the last few months, and we understand he had his unfortunate circumstances recently and unable to join us. Very glad that you were able to step in at short notice and do such an excellent job. All right. Before you go, let me let all of our members know. I want to acknowledge that we also have in you the first Vice President of Tutor, Mr. Marlon Seals, our General Secretary, Ms. Edie Beckles. We have a couple of our IR officers, Mr. Kerry Brooms and Mr. Kevin Kerr. Earlier on in the session, I mentioned our Tobago teachers get together, and we've had with us this afternoon the chairman of the Tobago district, Mr. Dion Rodriguez, and other persons from Tobago, as well as the chairman of Port of Spain and St. Patrick, Port of Spain chairman, Ms. Eka McPhee, and our St. Patrick chairman, Ms. Avenel Etienne. Lewis, thank you all for joining us. For all of our teachers who participated, thank you for being here. Siobhan, again, thanks for spending time with us. So at this point, I will just ask everybody, crave your indulgence for a few minutes more. I'm just going to point you to some online resources that you might be able to use. Siobhan has mentioned, of course, their company website, and I would certainly encourage you to check with them. Guardian Asset Management is one of the firms we've been talking with in recent time at Tutor, and certainly they are an organization that you can reach out to for guidance and for products that might suit your needs. But we are not here selling any product or recommending any individual firm. So I'm going to share a few things online that you might want to look at, okay? So let's share that screen now. Here we go. All right. So one of the things that I want everybody to be aware of is that there is this thing called Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. This is their website, so the ttsec.org.tt. And it's important because this is one of those regulatory agencies. So as you are reaching out there, you know, somebody might be standing on the corner with a nice suit and offering you a product, or somebody may set up a storefront and put a nice sign up and offer you a product. There are regulatory agencies which would provide you with some reference information, some guidance in terms of whom you should go with to do business, to get your financial advice and your financial products. So it's a very useful website, the TTSEC. There's lots of information there. They actually have a page with a glossary of terms because, you know, I think somebody said it earlier, that sometimes, also Patrice, that, you know, finances, when you're looking at it, it just might seem very challenging or confusing. We're all teachers, and we know that students come to us knowing some things but not knowing everything. So be kind to yourself as well. Understand that you would not be expected to know everything coming in, but that with time you can acquire information, acquire knowledge that will allow you to be a little more discerning in terms of what you take in from the firms and the individuals that you treat with. So check out the TTSEC website, ttsec.org.tt. There's a glossary of terms there that you might want to refer to. And they also have a list of all the organizations that are registered as financial institutions offering financial products and services, right? So let's check the list here. I think we have, yes, see over here, let me get my pointer highlighted so we can see what I'm talking about. Right, so brokers and dealers, people that you would go to when you're interested in buying stocks, bonds, etc. on the market. You see Guardian Asset Management is listed, but there is a list here of what, 43 firms, investment advisors. We see one of the Guardian firms here, but of course we also have a list of 9 firms. This firm at the top, Aspire Fund Management Company, is related to another organization that I'm going to show you in a little while, something called PCL. So this list is on ttsec.org, right? So you can go to the website and look for the registrant listing. So all the registered representatives who work with those 43 firms and the investment advisor firms, all of the individuals are listed there as well. So you can find those names. Lots of useful information if you want to double check as to whether the person you're talking with or the firm that you are dealing with is trustworthy, is a firm or an individual that you do want to work with. There's a link on the TTSEC website to their Investigate site, right? So investigatetT.com is, I don't know, it's a subset. It's a service that's provided by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And on the Investigate website, you will find a lot of information that is designed to provide with information about investment opportunities, right? So investor education and that online course is there on the website, okay? Let me pause as just to acknowledge as well that we've had with us this afternoon trustees of TUTA, Ms. Angela McAllister and Mr. Krishna Ryan Basau. Very glad that they were able to sit in the session with us, all right? So Investigate TT, do a Google search. There's lots of useful information on the website, and they go through a lot of the basic terms that you need to know as well to help you understand the language that you're going to treat with. Now, I'm going to point out just a few firms that, again, we have come across in our recent investigation. As treasurer, I've been talking with the association about investment, and there are a few firms that we've identified. They are listed on the SEC website, and they also have products which you might find interesting. So just very quickly, we have the Deposit Insurance Corporation, right? Sorry, this is another important thing. Deposit insurance. In terms of your level of risk, there are some items, some investment products which are covered by deposit insurance. And that's one of the things that you might want to consider when you are going to the individual firm. So you go to Answer Bank, or you go to Republic Bank, or you go to Fidelity Insurance. I'm not here to promote any individual firm, right? But there are firms listed here. And on the Deposit Insurance Corporation's website, they identify those firms which have deposit insurance, and then they will go on, when you go to the individual firm, to identify the specific products that qualify for deposit insurance. Okay. Nice. So what is your bank paying you right now? In her presentation, Sharon says, the only thing you get from the bank is charges, right? Typically, your saving account at the bank might be earning you 0.125%. Some accounts might offer you a 1%. Here are a few firms to check out. They are listed on the SEC website, and there's deposit insurance coverage. This is Development Finance Limited, right? DFL. And you see here, DFL is saying you can earn up to 3.85%, right? So check out DFL online if you're looking for some place to put a little money for the year or a few years. Development Finance Corporation. And there's a little chart. Is it on this page? I hope it's on this page. Where it go? Okay. But you can go to the site and check for yourself to see, okay, how are they going to pay me this 3%? What kind of account is it that they're offering 3% on? There's another one, NCB Merchant Bank, also listed on the SEC website, also listed in terms of deposit insurance. So looking at places where your money is not at too great a risk, that there is some reasonable level of coverage, and that you are likely at least to recover your capital, but they also offer a decent rate of return. NCB Merchant Bank would also have products offering interest rates which you might find. Is this it? Yes, there we go. Right, so this is from NCB Merchant Bank, 3.5%. Okay, so 1 year 3%, 2 years 3.25, 2 years 3.25, 3 years 3.5%. The statement here, right? You see the Deposit Insurance Corporation is the symbol there. So you can inquire there. I'm not recommending, but again, just like Development Finance Limited, you have NCB Merchant Bank, and they're both offering up to 3%, over 3% on these fixed deposits. I pointed you to Aspire on the list earlier, and they are related to this firm, KCL, Capital Market Brokers. For those persons who are interested in a short-term investment, there are products available from the firm. I am not recommending them, but Tuta has done business with the firm, and it may be, excuse me, it may be a place of interest for those persons who are looking for short-term and attractive interest rate. I am not sure that there is any deposit insurance on the items that they provide, because they provide a different kind of product. Okay, so you can feel free to check out KCL, CMBLTT, right? Forget what the long name is, but that's an option as well. Okay, so just want to put those things on the table. This is an example of one of the items that KCL had shared with us. Most people know TCM, the firm that's out there with the records and the cars that meet you on the road when you have an issue. And that TCM firm had gone to KCL to get assistance in raising capital, and KCL facility is one of the firms that facilitates that kind of thing. All right, so the investors go to KCL, and KCL then uses the money to assist the firm and earns a return on that. And as the investor, you would earn a return on that as well. Okay, so information which might be of assistance to you as you continue to explore, right? And of course, we said Guardian Asset Management. If you go to their website, well, certainly if you reach out to Siobhan, Raphael, the other persons at Guardian Asset Management, they will share information with you. This is a publication that they call X-Rays, in which they tell you about the different funds that they have, mutual funds with different types of investment, different levels of return, right? Some of them are denominated in TT dollars, while others might be denominated in US dollars or other currencies, right? So they present you with the information there. You can sit with them, sit with their advisors, or sit with your personal financial advisor and consider the options at any of these firms, okay? So I just wanted to point out to you, TTSEC as a regulatory agency, to point out, investigate TT as another place where you can get a lot of information and start, preparing yourself to deal with finances a little more. Deposit insurance as one of those factors. You're looking at putting aside $10,000 or $100,000. There are places where your investment is going to be covered by deposit insurance. So if you have limited resources, you don't want to put your money where you could potentially lose it all, this is one of the factors to consider. So when you look at the firm and you look at the product, ask them about deposit insurance, if that is an important element to you. Okay, so we mentioned BFL, Development Finance, NCB, Merchant Bank, KCL, Guardian Asset Management. Just mentioning those as a few firms that are listed, have different kinds of products. And as we said this afternoon, there's no one-size-fits-all advice. You have to determine how much capital you have to work with, how much risk you are comfortable with, and what you want to get out of your investment in terms of returns, in terms of the timeline. All right, so I will stop there. Thank you very much for participating and staying the course. Normally we would finish within an hour, a little over an hour. It's been almost 2 hours now, so thank you very much for staying the course. Are there any questions or comments before we close? You are free now to share any comments or any suggestions that you might want to make, or if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer. All right. Well, again, thank you all for participating. Okay. Thank you for your questions and your contribution. Thank you for the feedback as well. I see the comments coming in. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you all in Faizabad next Sunday. Talk to your district, talk to your staff rep, talk to your district executive about transportation to get down to Faizabad for Labor Day next Sunday. See you again on the 26th at 4 p.m.
All right, thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for the opportunity. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Siobhan. Thanks for staying with us. Take care.
Bye.